Rich, you there?
I am, sir. How are you?
Good, buddy. I want to go right up to the Patriots a few years ago when they were 16-0, and the expectations that they would win everything, and they lose to a team that was like a mid-level regular season team. If I would have told you before that playoffs that the Patriots would not win the Super Bowl, if you could think back that far to what you thought then, what would you have said?
Well, I would have, obviously things like that happen. You guys know that. I would have been surprised if you told me it was against the Giants. We were with the NFL Network there at the old Giant Stadium for the last game of the year, where the Patriots improved to 16-0. Put that game. It was like the State of the Union. It was on 15 different ways that you could see it, because the NFL Network was still in a carriage dispute with half the free world, it seemed. And it would have been surprising at the time to say that this was a preview of the Super Bowl, and that the Giants would be able to get it together in time to actually beat New England. But that's the way that's the way it goes. I'm really stunned that the Warriors are in this position right now. I'm beyond stunned that they have fallen completely apart. But it takes away to when you say that, because they are a 73-win team, and I think this just adds fuel to the Thunder fire. That there's no slouch in Durant. Russell Westbrook is putting together one of the greatest point guard performances we've seen in postseason history, and instead we're wondering if Steph Curry's 100%. And Billy Donovan is poised to become one of the poised to achieve something that most coaches can't even dream of doing, which is winning a title at two different levels in the 21st century. So they're for real. And, I said it on my show a couple of weeks ago. This is what out here in Los Angeles the Clippers fans are all hoping for, that one year their guys catch fire, lightning in a bottle, with a coach who knows how to push the buttons, and they can shock the world with their big three. And instead it's the Thunder this year. I don't think I'm surprised that the Thunder have pulled it together, but to be up 3-1, that's definitely a shocker.
Rich, you live in Los Angeles. The Warriors are nowhere near physically where you are. Have they stolen some of the basketball fan base of Los Angeles, or just maybe temporarily?
No, gosh, no. This is a Lakers town. There's a lot of Clippers fans that are out here, obviously, and the Clipper fans are getting louder every year, but they are always looking for the trapdoor opening, just like Cavs fans are right now, Browns fans, Red Sox fans used to. Cubs fans might be looking over their shoulder a little bit,
right,
but they really haven't given much of an indication that they're going to slip up right now. But we haven't reached Memorial Day yet either. No. This is 100% an LA basketball town, where still Laker fans seem to outnumber Clipper fans, despite the obvious change in fortune for both franchises.
Rich, no surprise, LA got a Super Bowl in 2021. I said something earlier on the show, and I don't know for sure, but it feels like LA is becoming sort of partially the headquarters of the NFL. I know you're out there with the NFL Network. Has the league shifted westward? Is this everything going to be happening out there?
Well, obviously, when that stadium gets built, it'll be apparent. From what I'm told, this is going to be the 21st century palace for the world to envy. This is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that there might be like a West Coast wing of the Pro Football Hall of Fame installed here, too.
Really?
So, yeah, they want folks to get out. Everybody involved with the NFL wants folks to get out of the plane at LAX and take the 10-minute trip to go see this place that they will be flying over, by the way. I mean, imagine what the naming rights deal of this place is going to be when you can say to whomever has the pocket change to pull this off that there are two runways when you land at LAX, and you will either see the new stadium out the right side of your plane or the left side of the plane, depending on which runway that your plane is landing on. Every time, every day, every plane.
Wow.
Do you think this would work for the Olympics, too? Is this also a potential Olympic stadium?
Everybody look, man, the Super Bowl is going to come here, as we know, after the 2020 season in the calendar year 2021. Then when the Olympics come here in 2024, I mean, what better way to kick off the city than to have the Super Bowl after the 2023 season, too? And maybe have Los Angeles get the Super Bowl once every 3 years, maybe once every 2 years in a facility like this. And the second media market in the country. Why not? I know other cities will probably answer, well, there's reasons because we can host it too, and I'm sure. But I don't think it's any conscientious move that the NFL wants to go west. But there's going to be this beautiful new facility in Los Angeles starting in the 2019 season. And I think the NFL wants to avail themselves of it, as I'm sure the NCAA will want to avail themselves of it. Boxing, MMA, I'm sure this is going to be a facility that's not going to just lie dormant on the other, I'm going to do the math off the top, 42 weeks of the year that there's not a regular season football game played in it.
Rich Eisen of the NFL Network, Mr. NFL Network, and of the Rich Eisen Show on Audience on DirecTV. Now, you had Dan out there the past couple of days. That we're still not sure. I know Dan brought his clubs out there. Any reports on the West Coast? You have a great news team on your staff. His location?
Well, you would know better, right?
You would think.
He was pretty much on the. He was on the Sports Jeopardy set. I'm more concerned. How does the flow chart work there right now without Dan there?
Ooh, that's a big question. What specific do you want to ask about?
Everything. I want to know, so are you ping-ponging back and forth? Like, I've got the next question. It's assumed that Seton doesn't care to ask a question. Fritz is just on the phone, is trying to work the next guest to keep the A-list feeling that the flow, the show normally has for it flowing.
I'm
just wondering, how does this work?
Well, we look up to you, Rich. You've manned a lot of hours on TV. Now, when you're on TV and you ping-pong around to do a question, do you do the light finger, like me next move, or do you just do the head nod, like I got this next? What's the move when you're on TV?
Oh, I go ahead nod. Well, as you know, I don't usually share the microphone.
No.
When they pin it on me, it's for a reason, Paul. And so normally, though, there are times, say during the draft, when Mayock gets some questions, I get some questions. Sometimes a producer will get in our ear and say Mayock next, or we'll look at each other and give each other a head nod, sort of in the same way that you would nod your head at a coworker that you've already said hello to 3 times in the hallway during the workday.
Building 5 at ESPN, yeah.
Please, the catwalk between those buildings.
Oof.
I once asked this of Larry David during one of my interviews of him during my old podcast days at the network, that when you say hello to a coworker during the day, are you required, if you see them again, to say hello to them again? And his response was, a head nod is appropriate for the second time, but the third and fourth time, absolutely not.
So you just walk and don't acknowledge?
Absolutely not.
Isn't that what the eye raise is for? You raise your eyebrows. Hey, that's the slightest form of recognition you could possibly give.
We did that one time when I worked at my hometown newspaper, the Staten Island Advance, or as the Staten Islanders call it, the Advance. They put the syllable on the first word in my hometown. Mm-hmm. I'll tell this story. He was a longtime editor of the Staten Island Advance, who was, let's just put it this way, the Mr. Potter of newspapering. It was not easy to work for at all. And then one day he doesn't come into work. He's an elderly man because he passed away earlier that morning.
Oh, sad.
And the rest of us in the newsroom that day all gave ourselves the eyebrow raise good morning to each other that day, the head nod and the eyebrow raise, like, yes, good morning. That's the way that we actually went to work that day.
Keeping it real.
So I have gotten the head nod and the eyebrow raise down pat, even in the most sad of circumstances.
Now, Rich,
that makes sense to you.
Totally. Now, from your perspective,
like that's the way that it would be like it was today when Dan was not in, right? Did you guys know Dan was? Did these scheduled days off for Dan?
That's a bigger question, big guy. You know what? But,
I am really on the fault line of the Dan Patrick show.
You're in
right
our
now.
kitchen right now.
How did you react when you got the invite? Were you made aware that Dan was not going to be here?
Of course.
And
of course.
And were you like, yeah?
Look, by the way, look, this is my first appearance in back-to-back weeks. I can't recall. I mean, I used to come on once a week on the Dan Patrick show. Now this is my first back-to-back appearance. And Fritz would probably know this. When was the last time I made back-to-back weekly appearances?
It's been a while. I got to take out the old notebook and dust things off, but it's been a little while.
Blow the dust off the book, man. The booking sheet.
It just shows, Rich.
So I knew you guys went to an old reliable with Dan out.
Well, we wanted Bickley. Bickley wasn't up yet on the West Coast.
Oh, don't.
Nice.
All right, 2 more questions before we let you go. The Raiders going to Vegas, it seems like perception-wise that it's going to happen.
Yes.
If you live in Vegas right now, should you expect the Raiders to move there in the next year?
No, you can't expect. But if you're shaking up the magic 8-ball, all signs point to yes, no question. I mean, when you've got influential owners like Bob Kraft and Jerry Jones publicly speaking about the benefits of that city, and then you see the dynamics here in Los Angeles, where I think the Rams and the Chargers would like the Los Angeles to just be a one-team city. If the Chargers don't go there and stay put in San Diego, they don't want two more teams up north. And I think the Rams would like to keep things solo. Then the question is, do the Raiders stay in Oakland? And if not, then where do they go? And I think you're seeing in the ether Vegas becoming a more viable option, which is surprising to me. I thought a very warm place would have to freeze over for that to be possible.
Nice.
But you're seeing the signs point to yes right now.
So, Rich, wrap it up. How do you think we did, the Danettes?
Oh, boy.
Now, so by saying wrap it up, that means you're up against the,
Yes.
the commercial break.
Not a hard break, though, Rich.
And
We
you
have a
just
little
gave me-
flexibility.
You just gave me the verbal cue.
We're not very
that
good
you-
at getting to these breaks, so
Well,
we
you
need
gave
your
me
help.
the verbal cue, which you do to a guest, where you either feel that they're getting antsy and you want to give them the verbal cue that don't worry, I'm not keeping you for much longer. Or Fritz says to them that you only got them for 10 minutes and now you're 12 minutes into the interview. You give that as the verbal
But
cue.
Rich, we also screwed up
Or
by not
you are
mentioning.
truly up against it, and you've got to do a live read shortly.
But what we didn't do is ask you who's on your popular Rich Eisen show on Audience Network later today. We forgot to ask that.
A former colleague from the worldwide leader in sports, Matthew Berry,
Oh, nice.
will be on the show. Tony Hawk in studio,
Oh, jealous.
and your defending American League Most Valuable Player, Josh Donaldson, will be calling in from the Bronx.
Wow. Rich, on behalf of all of us.
Donaldson was very, very outspoken about beanballs lately, and I'm eager to chat with him on this subject that's coming up.
Gee,
today.
I got to tell you, on behalf of all of us, I'm a huge Tony Hawk fan. Probably not as big as Seton, but we've never had him in studio. That's an all-timer.
Thank you. He's coming in today, and I've never once been on a skateboard my entire life. That will change today.
Thanks a lot, Rich. We're coming up
guys.
against a hard break. I'm going to be very
There you go.
specific.
Hey, but good job. Good job, guys. Way to
All
steer
right.
the ship.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.